Ordinary Angels is the latest film from Lionsgate and the Kingdom Story Company, the same people who brought us Jesus Revolution. This stars two-time Academy Award-winning actress Hilary Swank and Alan Ritchson from the hit show Reacher. Ordinary Angels is a great film. It's based on a true story, and the character played by Hilary Swank, Sharon, is a struggling hairdresser. She's doing her best to live her life and overcome certain inner demons. And while doing so, she comes across a guy named Ed, which is played by Alan Ritchson. He is a widower who is struggling himself, and his youngest daughter needs a liver transplant. Sharon is so inspired by this, she decides to galvanize the community to make sure that that happens. This film is remarkable. I absolutely loved it. Stick around to the spoiler section, and I will share with you the difference between good storytelling like this versus bad storytelling, what we're seeing right now in Hollywood. It's a big deal, and I can't wait to talk to you about it in my next conservative take. If you are unfamiliar with the way we do our movie reviews, then please click the link right here, and that will explain everything. Also be mindful that there will be a spoiler section. If you don't want to know too much about the film, then click in the chapters below in the description and skip ahead. Ordinary Angels is a very inspiring film. It has all kinds of elements in it in terms of acting, in terms of community coming together, in terms of people fighting inner demons, in terms of emotion, pure raw emotion. And that is, to me, one of the best things about this film is that it takes you on an arc, not only from the characters you see on the screen, but also from yourself watching this film. You find yourself being pulled in and not really knowing which direction it's going to go. And so your arc is really, okay, it's kind of a sad beginning. Then you have, okay, he's trying to do this, but then it's more depressing in the middle because things are happening that you don't understand. And then at the end, it has a climactic, inspiring ending, which is absolutely true. And that's why I think this story is fantastic. But I'm going to give it a 7 simply because, as always, for biopics and for documentaries, you really can't do too much. But as far as what the arc is in terms of everything, I think the writers of this film did a fantastic job. And so with that, I'm going to give it a 7 for the story. For the emotional impact category for this film, I'm going to give it a 10. This is pretty easy because it invokes so many different emotions. It brings you along in a arch, so to speak, of emotion. It starts off very somber, sad, and in the middle, it also has challenges in terms of what's going to happen here. How's he going to make this happen? And then there's the sense of hope because as Sharon comes into play, she has ideas and things are happening and you're feeling upwardly positive. But then, of course, things crash down and other things happen. So it takes you on this roller coaster ride. And at the climax, the third act of this film is very emotional in an action standpoint, suspenseful standpoint. And so on all cylinders, this thing is clicking and it makes you cry too, obviously, because you're dealing with a child who needs a liver transplant and you just don't know how things are going to play out. So for emotional impact, it's going to be a solid 10. For watchability, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one. It's also a 10 for all the reasons I mentioned just now and what I'm going to mention in the conservative take section. So for my unweighted rating for Ordinary Angels, I'm going to give it an 8. This is a fantastic film, as I mentioned before. And again, for me, the MVP lies squarely on Alan Ritchson and his performance, which I truly believe deserves a Best Actor nomination. We shall see. We'll talk about that more in my spoiler section. So for the spoiler section, I'm going to focus squarely on the storytelling. I'm not going to give anything away in terms of how it ends or anything like that. That's not necessary. I want you to go out and see this for yourself. It's a wonderful film again. But I'm going to contrast with you what a typical woke Hollywood film of the past, let's say 7 or 8 years, looks like in contrast to what we see in this film, which is actually very good storytelling. Okay, you ready? Let's go. I'm a woke Hollywood producer. I'm looking for a film that must hit 5 checkboxes. And I'm going to let you figure out what those checkboxes are. It doesn't matter. Whatever they are, they have to be inclusive, and those 5 checkboxes must be checked at all costs. Story be damned. Once we have those 5 checkboxes, we're going to race swap characters. We're going to hire somebody. We're going to change the story. We're going to do whatever it is to make sure those 5 checkboxes are there and that we have a inclusive, woke, happy film. Now, the problem comes, how do you make a compelling story when you have that in there? Because certain characters can't do certain things because it would go against the narrative or the checkbox or whatever. So you're trying to fit a story into your agenda. And that is why Hollywood films right now just are not working, which is why Disney's past 11 films or so have, for the most part, have all lost money. Now, let's contrast it with this particular film. Now we're talking about a character, a real character who has flaws. We all have flaws. And those flaws identify them to us, and we see them in us. And when these characters overcome certain flaws, we see that potential in ourselves, and it encourages us to do the same. It endears us to them. It inspires us. It brings us an emotional journey along the way, and we're inspired in all of that, and we are brought along, and whatever the characters do, we're okay with because we are in hook, line, and sinker. And that's what this film does. Alan Ritchson's character and Hilary Swank's character both have inner demons. I think Hilary's has a more on the nose inner demon there because she has alcoholism going on, and so she has to overcome that. But Alan has his own inner demons in terms of doubt, in terms of insecurity in some ways, and not willing to take help, but eventually coming to that side saying, I have to get help to make this work. And I think those two things draw us to these characters, draw us to the story. And the fact that it is a true story means that we are really, really, really on board. It's a wonderful film all the way through. So for the final take, I'm going to give this film a 17.25 score, which translates to 3.5 stars and a go for my conservative take. This film is wonderful. It is a faith-based film, which I didn't mention, but it is. It's appropriate for most of the family. There's some themes in there that may be hard to explain to some younger kids, but it's inspirational across the board. I absolutely loved it and recommend that you guys check it out. So what do you think? You guys plan on seeing Ordinary Angels, or have you already done so? If either, let me know in the comments below. I'd be curious to know what you think. And as always, I will see you in my next conservative take.